God's been patient with us to not understand his atonement, but he deserves it. Here's some of my thoughts. You might think that God compared to us. Like if we're created, he must be a creator. If we have meaning or direction, it is his. If we need, it's him we need. If I refuse to give him my thoughts, it's my choice. I have independence of thought, so also consequences. But there's a paradox. Are we to say that all the things of this world which we cannot love are God's will? Then we cannot love God. But if we don't love him, we're against him. Still, if we only attribute to him the things which make us happy, then while trusting God, we see a curse. Either way, we find ourselves cursed by God. We know it must be good, assuming we only attribute good to him. Thus it is fair that we should live in this curse. And through loving God, we find a God who curses us. But there's hope, inasmuch as he has not yet utterly destroyed us yet. He has more for us, and hope must have an end, if it's anything. He must be waiting to save us. And since I choose to think he's only good, I dare not pitifully contradict him in my continued thoughts of him. We must have his good to be good, so he must send it. If he sends an anointed to us into this cursed world, then those against God would kill him. But if he truly wanted to send his goodness to you, he'd not flinch, but deliver that goodness all the way through death, so that Christ leaves us his goodness by the non-physical part of him. God would then distribute his Spirit. Thus God delivers his own goodness to others. And there's no doubt God would resurrect the one who bears his goodness, as the anointed deserves not to die. Even so, common sense teaches us that as man, Christ could only give his life for his fellows in this cursed realm. That's the spiritual side of the atonement. Despite our murdering him, God's good man chooses rightly within his limits to not attribute responsibility to anyone, but leaves it as God's responsibility. Thus God sent him, and God distributes Christ's lordship only to the hearts of those who trust the Spirit of truth. Take hold of the dying will of Christ, assent to his headship, love not their sin more than God's Son. God is always faithful to forgive his children, and will by no means forgive those without the Spirit. And if his Spirit indwell a man's heart, he'd continue to hold nothing against us, as ever he did. Our sins led to his death, they always would, and he'd never flinch, but bear them to the grave. God would distribute his Spirit to us, as would be the Christ's will at death, and God would honor it inasmuch as he sent Christ for this cause, even to, number 1, make us a spiritual family, number 2, filter our God-contradicting deeds away. For number 1, they who receive the Spirit are family, and number 2, the Spirit of the heart would replace our own independence, so that we could not offer anything bad to God. That is, if we sin, we can only sin through him, and he'd not be bad, but veto it. It's only an accident of his body. He holds no true intention, lest God have wrath against himself. Of course, that's my best guess. P.S. seems to say that God prefers to offend himself, but it's wrong for us to put contradiction on God.